Hello and welcome to Me and You and Nancy Drew, the podcast in which I, Colleen,
and I, Megan,
are reading through and watching and playing the different items in the Nancy Drew universe. Today we read The Message in the Hollow Oak, which is book 12 of the original series. We read the 1972 rewrite of this. What did you think of this book?
There was a lot.
Correct.
I simultaneously was very interested in the mystery. And I think we're going to have a lot of discussions in Blast from the Past about a lot of different aspects of this book I think needs some discussing. But in terms of the actual mystery, I don't know if this was the strongest mystery. There were some very enjoyable parts, and I mean, I was definitely wanting to finish it, but maybe not the strongest. Maybe not my favorite so far.
I agree. I was not enthralled by the mystery, and I was not thrilled by some of the cultural stuff, but every single side detail was hilarious.
Yes.
More on this later, but I was trying to sum up this book. I have written a couple of alternate titles. Great Names and Unimportant Facts, the novel. Wow, exclamation point, so many vehicles. And Nancy Takes a Nap for the first, second, and third time ever. And Sexism and Sacrilege, the novel. So lots to unpack here.
Very much. Very much. I am excited to get into it and discuss it, honestly.
Yes. Acrostic. Abridgment creation regarding our summary to inform co-host. Can you tell us what an acrostic poem is in case someone forgot?
So an acrostic poem is where you take a word or a phrase, and instead of writing it horizontally, left to right, you write it vertically, up and down, and each letter of that word or phrase becomes the first letter of a line or word of your poem.
Yes. And what did we choose for our phrase this time?
So this week we are doing hollow oak, as in the message in the hollow oak. So HOLLOWOAK. Would you like to go first with your acrostic poem?
Yes, please. How can Nancy find an old oak tree with a lead plate leading to oodles of treasure? ? With friends she made on the way, and old chums, of course! ! Kit Cadle sucks. Period. Well, he just wasn't in there, and I needed something to start with K, and he has too.
Yes, he does. He's a double K name.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I also do appreciate how both of us do our acrostic poem slightly differently, and you do phrases, because I did single words.
Excellent. I shortened my phrases this time because it was getting out of hand last time. So yours, I think, is tighter and better. So let's hear it.
Not necessarily better, just different. I like how yours gives more detail. So
due to having more words.
Yes, I only have, 9 words for the 9 letters in hollow oak.
Let's go.
Help out looters, look over woods, outsmart all kidnappers, period.
Very good.
Those are the 3 things that Nancy does in this novel.
This is true. She does help out looters. Yes, indeed. I like that there were 3 sets of 3 there. That was quite succinct and helpful.
It worked out really well. I was really pleased.
Quite good.
30-second recap.
Okay. Ready, set, go.
Aunt Eloise from the video game sets Nancy on a journey to go to Illinois, and there she joins an archeological dig, and they let her just also dig with them and go into a bunch of Ohio burial mounds. Well, except they're in Illinois. It's the Midwest. And Nancy hears about this mystery, and that's what Aunt Eloise sent her to do, to find these metal plates that are embedded in some really old hollow oaks that will lead to a treasure because they all have arrows on them. And also 2 different people get kidnapped at 2 different times, and Nancy solves all the mysteries and finds the treasure.
Honestly, that's great.
Yeah, I think I got a little bit too caught up with Aunt Eloise.
Aunt Eloise from the video game.
I was just really excited that she was there.
Yes, correct. Me too. Also, yeah, really quick, because that's not going to be in my summary. She does fly to New York for 1 chapter, and that's just to get exposition, which I feel like we could have done on the phone.
Correct.
Because the mystery was in Illinois, but whatever.
I was also just excited by all the references to Ohio.
Yes, Ohio. Okay. Count me in.
3, 2, 1, go.
Nancy joins a girl archeological dig, and also there's boys there, but it's very exciting that she's a girl detective and she's going to do girl mystery solving with some girl people that dig up other people's sacred relics and their bodies. And it's exciting, we're told. And there's a kidnapping and there's treasure and Ned is there. And then there's a boy who wants to date Nancy and then he's really jealous and there's matchmaking and there's someone almost gets killed by a log and the George almost drowns and there's a lot of peril. We're in 100 vehicles in the end. I don't know. I got real hung up on it, but boy, howdy, they sure do love digging up just the bodies of indigenous people and the stuff they were buried with. And it's presented almost entirely by the narrative as an uncomplicated good to add more to archaeological knowledge and the knowledge of human history, except for two people who would take issue to us. One is one of our favorite people ever, and it is Bess.
Yes.
Her issue is mostly ew gross.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's gross.
It's mostly ew gross. And then they find this baby skeleton. She's like, basically, what the heck? Why would you disturb this extremely tragic? To have a baby skeleton means that it died as a baby. If it wasn't sad enough that you are digging up, again, the bodies of another culture that were in this resting ground, and you're just like, wow, let me put this in my museum. At least be sad about this baby and not excited that you found a baby skeleton. And then, oh gosh, what's his name? I wrote it down. Clem Rucker. Clem Rucker.
Sarah, this is for you. It's Clem.
Is it short for like Clement?
Clementine, perhaps? Clementine,
no,
probably that one.
Mr. Clementine, if you will. No, Clem Rucker, who is presented as almost a like backwoods, folksy so-and-so who drives this antique car that shouldn't still be in circulation, apparently. And so when it drives off-road and then gets in the water and then stops working, it's like, well, no wonder. I can't believe he would be so old-fashioned. They're like, he doesn't have a phone. They think of him as like basically an old yokel. It's coming off as the way people talk about people who live in the rural South or in Appalachia in a derogatory, he's not so smart, he's not book educated, etc. way. And he is perhaps the only one that cares about this issue.
I have the quote from him.
Yes, please, because I flagged it, but I can't find it. Please. They say Indian throughout the whole book.
The whole book. That was once a dig, and they found plenty of old Indian bones there. And one of the girls says it certainly doesn't look like much now. That's right, said Clem. Folks is funny. They make such a to-do about taking care of cemeteries, and they sure ain't got no respect for the skeletons of folks that lived around here 300 or 400 years ago.
Exactly. Thank you, Clem. And so I almost think that because they have written him with a dialect, and so he's using ain't, and he's like, folks is funny, and things that we would not think of as grammatical English. We're supposed to think of him as a not very smart man, and I think he is the smartest person in this whole book because he's the only one that's like, hey, you would hate it if your family's remains were being dug up. So what is the situation here where now it's like, oh, here's a museum piece? I don't know. We've had a little bit of this theme before with Shadow Ranch, where they dressed up in culturally appropriative, quote, costumes, unquote. But this was a worse treatment.
I know that when it comes to like archaeology and scientific discoveries and anthropology, you will encounter dead bodies and remains. I think it's specifically about going into what you know is burial mounds continuously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a weird gray line. I can understand, but it just feels icky.
Yeah. I also think, especially because there are still indigenous people living in this area, as they talk to somebody named Mr. Lightfoot. And, okay, if they're digging up bodies at ancient Pompeii, that does not, to me, feel like as much of a violation as this does. Does that make any sense?
I think so. It's also the difference between, like, when you think about Pompeii, like, those people were not buried there by their families.
Yes. This happened.
Their resting place.
It was horrifying, but this is not a religious or ceremonial site in any way, shape, or form. Whereas, and in fact, I think Nancy at one point talks about Egyptian sarcophagi and tombs and how much care goes into those and how this burial mound reminds her of that. Well, and I guess I know archaeologists have dug up, have gotten into tombs and such. Obviously, people were eating mummies. You know, people were grinding up mummy dust and just doing that for some reason. I couldn't tell you why.
But like, I've been to the British Museum and I've seen the mummies that they have there. And there's something weird. It's very uncomfortable and unsettling when you think about it, where you're like, oh, this body's just like on display, like buried with such care and now being hauled around the world for people to look at.
And for them to make money off of. And I think that is where the line is for me. It's not I am against archaeology and finding out about human history. I am against them digging up a ceremonial ground of a culture that is not theirs, a culture that is still around in that area specifically.
Except they're not in that area.
Oh.
That's the thing.
Fair.
Not that I am an expert in anything to do with Native Americans, but all of the descendants of these people have long since been pushed out of these areas.
That's true. Is that worse, though? Because then the people who are digging this up's fault, like not them specifically, but, Andrew Jackson and everybody. But and then putting it into a museum. Putting it on display. It's not about knowledge. It is about, I want this. It's going to be so cool to have this up. Oh my gosh, look how amazing this looks and how cool this is going to be. Wow, this baby skeleton, let's put it on display.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And going back to what we were saying about the difference between a burial mound versus Pompeii, because I've also been to Pompeii. Also, it's a little bit different with Pompeii because it's not actually the preserved bodies. It's casts of the impression of where these bodies once lay. And I know humanity has an ever-evolving relationship with death and burial.
Right. It's hard to find the right line. Because, I'm not saying we can't know about death or we can't think about other cultures and their practices. It just feels disrespectful, and it feels like they don't even think the culture is worthy of respect. It is only something to find. Wow, there's treasure, and now we can keep this treasure. It's so hard to articulate.
I completely understand. And I feel exactly like Clem.
Of just, wow, I'm sure you're having a great time, but imagine if this was happening to your great-grandparents. Maybe you never met them, but it would feel weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to know more about the archaeological digging of Pompeii.
Because also that was people, dying in extreme fear and pain, right?
Yes, but I was thinking, I don't know if the Italians are the ones who led these archaeological digs. And I think that might also be the difference, is people of a different culture coming to gawk over the burial mounds of long ago civilizations. Like you said, treating it like treasure.
Yes. And treating it as exotic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that is a pall over the entire book because that is where we are. We are on a dig. Nancy goes to New York to see Eloise from the video game. That cracked me up.
Famously from the video game.
Correct. And then after a chapter goes back home to not New York, so that was wild. Actually, it goes back to River Heights, tries to get permission to go, hears that there's a bad actor there. Not like our usual actors where you can't trust them because they can change their face, but just like a guy who's being naughty. Kit Cadle. Spelled like ladle.
Yes.
Kit Cadle. And so because he's a nasty guy, her dad doesn't want her to go, even though he's the one that planned for her to go to New York and get all this exposition. So that's a whole thing. Does go because she can meet up with Ned's cousin who's going on this girl archaeological dig. I know that there were guys there, but I felt like, wow, this girl is running it. Here, let me say her girl name a lot of times. There's going to be a bunch of girls there. And Nancy's dad is in charge of telling her whether she can or can't go there. And in fact, heard about this in the first place and arranged for her to go to New York. And then this guy's being extremely sexist to her on the plane. More on this later. And there's just so much more sexism than usual, which is wild. That was interesting. She goes and meets Julie Ann, which is two different words, and that's Ned's cousin. And then they go on this dig, and then they meet 1,000,000,000 strangers with hilarious names. I have an entire list.
Oh, I'm excited.
They are looking for treasure because the New York Detective Club couldn't find this because they ran out of time on their vacation to find it. So they need to enlist this girl detective. And she can't find it. She can find it. She's meeting 100 billion people and going on every vehicle that's ever existed. So honestly, it's amazing.
All the way up and down the Ohio River, back and forth,
down the Ohio
back and
River.
forth.
Oh my God. There's many states involved because they're talking about like this boat's going to go down to New Orleans when we're done. And we flew to Illinois. And then in the last couple pages, we find someone who's been kidnapped and the treasure. And then Kit Cadle confesses everything. And then there's a postscript for the first time ever, I think.
I wrote that down. Yes, this is the first postscript.
I didn't know what to put that in as categories, but there's just 1.5 paragraphs afterward as like essentially not even an epilogue. It is a postscript, but it doesn't feel worth it. Do you want to just read the whole thing?
Sure, let me pull that up.
It's at the very end if that helps.
It does help. Thank you. So the postscript follows this French-Canadian man.
I looked him up. He's not real.
I didn't think he was.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody in this book lists at least one fact that's completely unrelated to anything. And it's not even just Julie Ann. I thought she was listening. No, everyone has a special fact to share about the St. Louis Arch and about boats and about oak trees and about the state tree of whatever. And I stopped flagging them because I ran out of stupid Post-it notes because I was like, oh, this could be the trivia. This could be the trivia. No, everyone just needs to share a stupid little fact they know.
It's just like NPCs in a video game.
Yes, but it's
They
not
all
even
have a
like
fact
later.
to tell you.
Because if it was in the game, then later I would need that for a puzzle or at least one of them, and I would write it in my little notebook. Or if it was one character, then I'd be like, okay, this character reads a lot of little fact books.
It's an NPC in a different video game, not Nancy Drew video games. Nancy Drew games are very specific. This is just like in, when you're running around,
like Skyrim,
or whatever. Yeah, like Skyrim. You just like talk to the person. Like, did you know that the St. Louis Arch was built by this man?
It's the gateway to the West.
Yep. Cool. Cool
Great.
fact, bro.
So I'm going to go that way. That's not related to my journey. Except that it is because she does touristy stuff and goes up and
In the postscript, they are referring to they followed all of the clues in all of the different hollow oaks that lead them to a specific burial mound that has extra good stuff in it.
Yeah.
With quotes. So, the postscript says, the Hopewell Mound was excavated the following summer and found to contain many perfectly preserved artifacts and fossils, including several bird effigies in stone and a rare baby's cradle. At a luncheon celebration which followed the event, Nancy was praised for having added valuable information to the archaeological knowledge of America. With a smile, she said, all the credit belongs to Père Francois and his message in the hollow oak.
1, no, it
That's
doesn't. 2, not worth a postscript. 3, I did misread the line and thought it said a bird cradle, and then I was looking up if that's the same as a nest, and then I just realized that I can't read. 4, oh, thank God she added valuable information to the archaeological knowledge of America. That's nothing. Like, this was so not necessary. Thank you. You did a beautiful reading. Why is it here?
You're welcome.
Anyway, that's our book.
That's the summary. That was the longest summary.
But there was a lot to cover. Can I read you my list of names?
Yes.
All right, here are just some of the side characters with varying amounts of importance. Boyce, quote, call me Boycey, and then the narration does. Osborne, so Boycey Osborne, spelled Boycey. That's nothing. I said that out loud to my partner who went, like Idaho?
Close,
which is
but
valid.
no.
Clem Rucker, his wife, Hortense, presumably Rucker. Roscoe Thompson, Kit Cadle, Art Budlow, Teresa Bancroft, Nathaniel Hornbeck, Bob Snell, Les Blake, Captain Boge, Boge, Ben Wooster, Claire Warwick, and I think she's called that because she's like warlike and bellicose and nobody likes her, probably because she's a woman. And of course, A.C.E. Armstrong. His name is not Ace. It is the 3 initials A.C.E. Armstrong, and they only call him that. I don't know what's happening. This feels like one of those challenges where you are given a certain amount of lines to include I just did one where in 48 hours, several different theater companies had to write a short play. We all had one line in common, one prop in common, one sound effect in common, and one costume in common. And given that, you can do something very creative or it can seem pretty weird. And it does feel like they just gave them like 14 names, or this person was writing it down, it would be a great character name, and shoehorned in upwards of probably 20 weird character names that had varying levels of import, and then also several fun facts of varying degrees of fun about state trees and looters and New Orleans as a concept, and just a bunch of things that weren't relevant. And I kept waiting.
And they
for them
don't
to
even
come back
go to
later.
New Orleans. They don't even go
to New Orleans.
And it's not relevant.
It's not. We talk about counterfeiters that were in a cave in like a specific year, like 1831, and that's not relevant. It's just not needed, which is fine. You're allowed to have extraneous details sometimes to help set the setting, but when you're like, in 1831, counterfeiters were in this cave, well, now I think it's going to be important. It just wasn't.
That's also what I was like, oh, okay, so that's going to be cool. No, it's not important. I did want to see who the ghostwriter was of this one.
Please.
If it said.
It was Sexist McGee. That's
it
just what they call
definitely
people.
felt like somebody who just discovered history was trying to write.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It was
it
oh
felt
my God.
like a kiddo was trying to work in some stuff that they had learned into a creative writing exercise, and it didn't really fit.
Yes. Agreed. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Oh, interesting. So Edna Stratemeyer Squire did the outline for The Message in the Hollow Oak, as well as the previous book, The Clue of the Broken Locket, and Mystery of the Ivory Charm and the Whispering Statue. The original manuscript for those books was written by our dear darling Mildred Wirt, or also known as Mildred Wirt Benson.
And she herself was someone who went hacking through jungles for treasures that weren't hers, which is a cool image because Indiana Jones, but also Indiana Jones being like, that belongs in a museum. It sure doesn't. It belongs right here.
Yep. And so both Edna Stratemeyer Squire and Harriet Stratemeyer Adams were the editors of the original manuscript. It was rewritten by Grace Grote. Interesting. So she revised a few of them. The Clue of the Broken Locket was revised by both Grace Grote and Harriet Stratemeyer Adams.
Interesting. I want to keep track of that for the next one.
Yes.
Because the Broken Locket and this one were both a specific thing we need to find. And I'm curious at the Ivory Charm, which seems like a very small thing that we might need to find. And I wonder if Whispering Statue, that one seems harder to hide, but still doable. I wonder if Edna's like, I gotta write about a treasure.
Yes.
Know.
Oh, we really
like
love
Fred
treasure.
From Scooby-Doo.
In this segment, we discuss our favorite cliffhanger from the book. The Nancy Drew books are famous, and as we found in the history, required to include a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter to encourage the reader to continue reading all the way through. So, Colleen, what was your favorite cliffhanger?
I have two, and they're not at the end of a chapter. So
okay,
it might not count.
We make our own rules, so
that's
it's okay.
True. So the first sentence should also entice the reader to keep going, and it starts with, Nancy, said the voice on the telephone, you are wanted in New York City. And much like Nancy herself, I was like, oh no, she did a crime there and she's wanted. I don't think she thinks she did a crime, but I think she thinks she's been framed and is a wanted woman because she freaks out and then she goes, oh, for a mystery. She goes, oh, for a moment you had me scared. Your announcement sounded as if I was being brought up on some police charge. So I really liked that. And then my, I guess, honorable mention would be an entirely italicized line in the middle of chapter 13. A man was lying on the floor, bound and gagged! ! And that's ACE Armstrong, which we might pronounce Ace, except for that you can spell that as a word, and they didn't. So I'm going to say ACE. But this is after about 3 straight chapters of them looking for this kidnapped man. So having an entire sentence italicized of the man that they were looking for and found, wow, he's there. It didn't feel needed. They weren't looking for him at first year, and then they were like, oh, well, he left a note saying he's in this cellar of this specific place, and so they went and found a specific cellar of an abandoned house where people had dropped someone off and not been there in a while, so that's obviously the right place. And then a man is there. Yeah, I don't know. What? I guess it is shocking, but no also way. It's like your 14th kidnapping this week, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they were looking for a different person who'd been kidnapped and stumbled upon a second kidnapping.
Looking that hard for
No, they really weren't.
Bob Snell or whoever.
Poor Bob Snell. His dad came all the way to Illinois to look for him.
Didn't work. Did not work.
So my favorite cliffhanger is at the end of chapter 3, which was Nancy is staying the night in the girls' house because the boys aren't allowed to stay in that house at all. They have to be on a completely different property with the archaeology crew. So she crawls into her bed because they've just got extra beds, and also you just go ahead and join their archaeological dig. It's great. You don't need any training. You don't need any experience.
They're studying it in college, it seems.
Yes. Like this is like a research study, and Nancy Drew can just join.
Nancy.
Yep. And just join us. Yep, come to bed.
You don't know what a phalange is when it's mentioned, but yeah, go ahead.
That's going to be in my Drew's Clues.
I can't wait.
So she fell asleep instantly, but soon afterwards was aroused by a weird voice calling, Nancy Drew. Before she could force herself wide awake, something hit her on the head. Oh, no. There was just a lot happening, and I was like...
There sure was.
We are aroused. There's a weird
after she gets undressed. She gets undressed.
Yes, that is correct. I did skip that line. The paragraph does begin with Nancy undressing hurriedly and crawling into bed, then getting aroused by a voice and getting hit in the head.
Yes, there's so much happening. I Snapchatted just that paragraph to a lot of people I know, and they were like, hey, what are you reading?
Then, though, to me, I was like,
mystery story for teens.
I am intrigued. I do need to know what is happening. The next chapter starts with the object which had struck Nancy was not heavy and had not injured her.
Yep, not a big deal.
She looks, and there is an animal in the room. It's a goat.
And I was like, oh my God, oh no, like a raccoon or a bat or something, that would scare her because of perhaps rabies.
There is a goat, and it goes, nah. And so I was like, wait, did the goat say Nancy Drew? What, did the goat hit her? Did it headbutt her? Like, what is happening?
Did she get hit in the head so much that she thought a goat said her name? Is it ever cleared up?
It is cleared up in the final chapter when Kit Cadle does a summary of all the things he admits to, including saying Nancy's name in a creepy way and letting the goat loose to scare her. And what ended up hitting her in the head was the goat trying to eat the cookies on the dresser next to her. And so the cookie tin fell onto her. The goat did not say Nancy Drew. That was outside the window, and they were just trying to freak her out. There are a lot of people in the Nancy Drew books. They really clearly do not know what scares or doesn't scare Nancy Drew.
But it's like, whoa, she's a girl. She'll get scared pretty easily by a goat existing, maybe?
Clem's goat. They stole Clem's
goat. That's
goat.
how we meet Clem. Yes. Oh, yeah, because then he shows up, he goes, oh, I heard you guys got my goat. And they go, we sure did. I think they're trying to imply that he doesn't notice that it's a cool pun. And I think he's like, no, I'm not going to play into your little BS thing. Give me my animal. It was loose and I want it back.
Yes.
Oh, we got your goat. Oh, yeah, give me my animal. Whatever.
Yeah.
I love Clem, and I want to defend him to the death. I don't
do
know
too.
that it's needed, but I will do it. Ship of the week. I have an angry ship. My angry ship is Kit Cadle and... Oh, how would I want to say this? Kit Cadle and a long walk off a short pier. He's not just a criminal. He's a creep. So
he is.
There
are no
air.
redeeming qualities.
Nope. So she's on the plane to go to Illinois. Hold on. Where do we think that she lives?
Let's see. We've searched this before. I know this.
Oh, 100%.
It's described as a sleepy Midwestern town in rural Illinois near Chicago. However, when Mildred Wirt Benson wrote the early volumes, she envisioned it to be in Iowa. Thus,
I like
River
that
Heights
because
is primarily associated with Illinois, but has historical ties to Iowa, according to fandom.com.
Okay, this is good. I like fandom.com. Okay, so we're at the airport. George and Bess can't come to this dig at first because they're like, we're going to a wedding. Don't you forget we're bridesmaids because they ending in Y. And she goes, oh, yeah, that's right. So they take her to the airport. It gives you a blow-by-blow of her time at the airport, and then it goes, always alert to what was going on around her. She had a feeling for the past 10 minutes that a man was watching her rather closely. And like, okay, well, hold on. You were giving me a minute by minute. You're like, and by the way, for the last 10 minutes, also this, which is fine. But I was annoyed. He gets in line right behind her. She grabs her purse in case he's a purse snatcher. And then she's like, oh, that was ridiculous. And then she sits down. He sits right next to her. She's like, oh, great. He's trying to engage her in conversation. She's trying to be terse and shut him down without actually saying, don't talk to me, because putting on big chunky headphones hasn't been invented yet. And he keeps talking. He keeps asking nosy questions. She starts being evasive in her answers. Again, you don't have to answer, just like in Twisted Candles. You don't have to give the last name. You don't have to slur it. You could just not give people your name. That's fine. And then she is trying to get out of talking to him. You're allowed to move around the cabin. So she goes to take a walk to the galley of the airplane where you could just go to the kitchen and watch them make the meal in all the abundant space I'm sure there is. And then she accidentally spills her entire purse everywhere because the strap had caught up. And this guy helps by picking up every single piece in her purse and examining it and then giving it back to her. And he definitely keeps a piece for an excuse to see her later. And she does get to switch seats, but he definitely finds where she's staying and finds out by calling the front desk what room she's in. And the telephone rang. Nancy picked up the receiver. A man's voice on the other end said, Nancy Drew? Yes? First mistake, don't say yes. This is room 412. I have something of yours you dropped on the plane. May I come up and give it to you? Ugh. My friend and I will meet you in the lobby. Okay, if that's the way you want it. Can you come right down? Da-da-da-da. He goes, well, I have a surprise for you. You're a little fox. I thought you were coming back to your seat to have lunch with me. It wasn't until after you'd left the plane that I found this. He pulls out a picture of her dad and goes, boyfriend, isn't he a little old for you? And then she leaves with Julianne and he's like, I'm going to be seeing you. And then he's being a creep through the rest of it. He whispers Nancy Drew while she's sleeping and drops stuff in there and lets loose a goat and does all this criminal stuff. But it was just creepy, one thing after another, which is why I read so much of it aloud. It was just just a really, really, really bad time. And luckily in the text, Nancy is also like, oh, this is horrible, as opposed to, wow, what a flirt. You know, like it wasn't of the time. It's like clearly he's a creep. I was worried that this was, and maybe it was more normal or normalized, but it was clearly like not welcome.
No.
And it gave me such a bad feeling the whole time.
Agreed. And then he also was like in disguise and trying to introduce himself a second time to her.
Yep.
But with a limp and an affected voice and
like a beard and a mustache.
Makeup. And
which you should, in theory, we should like, because you were sad about the old lady makeup that she didn't do in one. So old man makeup, we should be all on board for it. But he's such a creep that I don't care for it.
No.
So my ship is him meeting an untimely end.
It was very Count Olaf vibes.
Yes, especially the large changes in appearance, which are attention grabbing, right? Well, this guy has a limp, it can't be the same guy. There's a large mustache, it can't be the same guy. And it's like, that's clearly the same guy, and no one will see it.
But Nancy does pick it up immediately. She's like,
yes,
I'm pretty sure that's Kit Caboodle.
But she's, in this instance, the Baudelaires, and everybody else is the adults around that are like, that guy has a limp, idiot.
Yeah, no. Said his name is,
Tom Walters or something. It wasn't a good enough name to put on my list.
Tom. No. It wasn't even an anagram.
Olaf's good at anagrams.
My anti-ship of the week is Julie Ann, 2 words, and Art.
Yes. I mean, I also don't like Art with Nancy, to be clear.
No. Oh, 100% not.
Yeah. Set us up.
So, Art is one of the boys on the archaeological dig, and he has a motorcycle. That is the most important thing about him because they utilize that motorcycle many a time to get them around quickly.
Oh, he's a cool motorcycle guy. No, he's useful.
We need that motorcycle. It's important. So while Bess and George are still at the wedding and Ned, Bert, and Dave are doing their jobs, Ned is selling insurance as his summer job.
Well, I thought he worked at a camp. Is he taking a break from his camp duties to...
Also, that was in summer, too. Yeah, this is a very long summer, okay? So,
Sorry.
I know. So at the archaeological dig, Nancy, of course, needs help going to go look at a bunch of trees in the woods. And so they take the motorcycle, they go into town, they go to Clem's house, and she spends a lot of time with Art. And it's very clear that Art is... Well, originally, he's just having a good time, as everyone does with Nancy.
Yes,
but then
I wrote down some good advice he gave, like, hey, let's just enjoy the moment. And then it became sour.
Yep. And it became sour when Nancy announces that Bess, George, Ned, Bert, and Dave are all flying in to come help. And Art just turns really sour, really quiet, starts being kind of a jerk and really aloof. And Nancy already is like, oh, goodness, this is going to be awkward, isn't it? It is. And then Ned shows up and he's got kind of posturing and then goes and sits off by himself and doesn't want to participate anymore. And Nancy starts trying to encourage Julie Ann to go hang out. And then Bess goes way too far trying to matchmake as Besses want to do. And
she's trying her best, but she doesn't know the situation, which is that Art's already a grubby boots.
And I guess it's trying to set us up to be Bess's matchmaking kind of works. And now Art is more cheerful and they're having a good time over there. And I think it's clear that Julie Ann is into Art. And so they're trying to encourage that. But Julie Ann, you don't need to be someone's second choice. Clearly he's hung up on Nancy.
When they were trying to encourage her, she went, oh, do you think I can? He's been following after you this whole time. And she's excited about it. Girl, you don't have to do that.
No.
What's it called? Sloppy seconds? It's a name, but it's that's what it feels like here.
Yes. Yeah. I think that Julie Ann can do better. Art is not an emotionally well-adjusted individual.
Yes. And I felt, and yes, sometimes they'll say it he's her favorite guy to go on dates with. They don't say they are betrothed or whatever, but it's very clear that this is her steady. And I mean, clearly the way she talks about him should have made it clear. And when she starts having phone calls with him, he gets grumpy, and especially because I think he feels like he's being used. Yeah, I'll give you a ride to go talk to your boyfriend. It's well, no, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff happening here.
One of your classmates got kidnapped. Remember this?
We're not going to focus on that, to be clear. We don't really care about Bob. He can survive or not. But, yeah, I don't care for Art. At first, I was like, wow, I think at one point, she's like, I'm sorry I'm causing so much trouble. You guys didn't have as many issues with, for example, Kit Cadle before I showed up. You were just doing your normal grave robbing. And then now things are hard. And he's like, no, don't apologize. Which I was like, heck yeah, take up more space. Feminism. And then it turns out it's well, it's one of those things where
it was just because he felt entitled to his time with her.
Yes.
And when it turns out she didn't feel the same way, instead of being a mature individual and moving on, clearly
He's an adult.
Nancy's not into him. He just was like a petulant child. And Julianne can do better. And she should not be throwing herself or allowing Bess to try and throw them together.
To throw her.
Just, you know, his motorcycle's not that important.
It's not. Ned can even drive it, which is great.
Yes. And honestly, like, I was actually surprised that Art was like, yeah, Nancy and Ned, you can go borrow my
That was his
motorcycle.
only moment of, okay, sure. But I do think it was because, A, he wasn't good to drive, he'd been up all night, and B, he got to spend time with another girl that had been set aside for him or whatever. I don't know. Not a good week for ships.
Definitely not. Yeah. And I felt bad for Nancy having to kind of be in between all of it.
Yes, especially because, oh my gosh, the other part was when Bess starts trying to ship Art and Julianne together and facilitate that, Nancy is worried that Dave is going to think Bess wants to be with Art because Bess is trying to get Art alone to talk to him about Julianne. But if she hasn't told Dave about that, it's going to look like I just want to spend time with this man. And I think that Dave's chiller than that, but Nancy's not so sure.
There was just so much weird relationship drama under all of this. And there were like 2 different men who are kidnapped. Half the time we were more focused on this like relationship interplay than we were on finding all of these. On Bob Snell, who has been missing, who is a college kid, who is just taken.
Yep.
Why? Where?
He has to basically help himself get rescued by leaving a bunch of clues.
The FBI has been contacted, but they're not even going to go look at these hollow oak trees.
Now that you say that, I'm like, well, that's not really a college student's job to find him, but they've made it their job, so now go do it.
Yes.
Like, it's also your fault Bob got kidnapped, like, a little bit, kind of, a lot. Like, you didn't kidnap him, but you put him in this situation and you brought these people here, so.
The people who kidnapped him are doing it because you are here.
Because you. Correct.
They do eventually find Bob, to be clear. But
he has to help. Just like, he has to leave, like, buttloads of clues in visual and auditory format.
He builds his own ham radio to contact anybody.
Out of spare parts. And gets a signal out to another, like, ham operator. And that, hey, come find me, I've been kidnapped, signal gets played on a quote-unquote real news show, and they're like, this is probably a hoax, but here you go. And they're like, oh my god, that's Bob. We pretty much forgot about him. Let's go get him.
Shoot, Bob. That's right.
I thought we were one guy, sure, but then, like, these other guys showed up, so it's like, who cares? One of them has a motorcycle. Do we even need Bob? Oh my god. Poor Bob.
Cooking corner.
We start off with a hefty fork full of roast beef. There's probably more to that meal, but that's the only thing we hear about is one forkful of roast beef, which I thought was very funny.
For dinner, 1 forkful of roast beef.
And you'll like it.
I love that we get to see Bess cooking and baking again.
Yes, that wasn't just a one-off. Yay.
It wasn't. And I know there do tend to be a lot of one-offs in the Nancy Drew books, and I think that kind of also comes from having so many different writers and editors and rewriters that
it's gotta
details
come with the
are kind of picked up and dropped. But we saw Bess cooking a lot in book 11, and so seeing her making more cookies, and then she cooks later as well, ham patties, mac and cheese, banana ice cream with cherries and walnuts. I just love Bess coming into her own in cooking, especially since we don't get to see Hannah in this book other than some little phone calls to Hannah and check-ins, but we don't get to experience any of her delicious meals. So it was lovely seeing Bess's delicious meals.
I also have, what's a ham patty?
I don't know.
It's not a hamburger patty, right? Is it just a little, I don't know. It sounds great, but what is it?
I was, I guess, almost imagining like literally just a slice of ham.
That's fine. I just would never call that a patty. But no, I loved that. And I also think it was a good way for her to regulate her emotions about the dead bodies and the bones that she was a little freaked out about. So she was like, well, I'm going to go be useful in the kitchen. I think that was really nice.
Ooh, do they still make Hormel ham patties? A nostalgic favorite live.
A nostalgic favorite?
No, a nostalgic favorite lives on. It just cut off. Ooh. I was like, live.
Live at the gateway.
Many who grew up in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, Hormel ham patties hold a nostalgic place in food memories. These convenient canned ham discs dominated lunchboxes and school cafeterias for decades.
Oh, yeah, that's spam.
Yep, that is a slice of
canned ham. All right, good to know. Thank you for looking into that.
You're welcome.
At one point, they are in another vehicle that has an issue, day ending in Y.
We'll talk more about that.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Some loose children that I thought were affiliated with the bad guys, but they might
I
not
did
be.
too. Yes.
I think they were just hungry. They steal their lunch, and then the college kids, Ned, Bert, and Dave, chase down the youths and steal their sandwiches back, and then also harvest luscious raspberries and streamers of watercress from the wilderness. So it feels like, gosh, I always think, oh, if I see someone stealing food, no, I didn't, because they needed it. But, if they need it bad enough to steal. I learned this from Aladdin.
Great. Yes. But I think they went foraging as well because they didn't get all of the sandwiches back. They had sandwiches for 8 of them. However many people were there. And I think
so maybe they gave 2 sandwiches
away. The boys
away.
Dropped some of them.
Oh,
and so they collected those, and then there wasn't enough food for everyone, so then they went foraging for some extra
streamers of watercress coming from their pockets, which is a wild image. Here you go, guys. Handful of berries and just pockets full of leaves. Thoughts?
Delicious.
Oh, sure, absolutely. They are in a very small town looking for a kidnapped man, not Bob, a more important one, I guess. And they hang out with the deputy and Jimmy. Nancy and them didn't have a lot of lunch, and so the deputy goes, Jimmy, go in the kitchen and fetch some apples and that bag of donuts on the table. I'll start the car. Bag of donuts?
Bag of donuts and some apples. Delicious, balanced lunch.
Oh, it's very balanced. Not beating the cops love donuts stereotype. What do you mean a bag? Donuts are like the most fragile food there is, besides like a souffle. This is hilarious to me. I'm sure it was lovely.
Amazing. One, I always love to find something in the book that makes me want to cook or makes me want to make something. And my fave character, Clem, comes in clutch with his wife, Hortense, making the best beaten biscuits you ever ate. She opens them and puts a little fishball inside. He provides lunch for both girls, Julie Ann and Nancy. And then, Nancy says, please tell your wife they're great. Nancy said, and thanks to you both for supplying part of the lunch.
I'm so glad that she passes her thanks along. I love that he hypes her up. He seems to love his wife. We never meet her, but she seems great. What is a fishball?
It looks like a fishball is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, which is you're taking like a whitefish, like tilapia or pollock, and egg whites and cornstarch and seasoning, and you just mix it all up. First, you chop the fish into really small pieces, and you mix it with the binder, which is the eggs and starch, which is the cornstarch or flour. You season it, and then you deep fry it.
I can get behind that and put in the biscuit.
Me
that
as
sounds
well.
Awesome.
And then, you put it in the biscuit. So I was looking up all these stuffed biscuit recipes, and I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds amazing.
What is a beaten biscuit? I'm sorry for not looking.
I am assuming that I didn't look up specifically a beaten biscuit, but what I'm assuming is that it's just like a very well mixed biscuit.
Okay.
And so usually
it's just like a smoother consistency.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, if you keep mixing, usually they end up fluffier. So I'm assuming it's like a very airy biscuit, and then it's got a fish ball. So it sounds great.
It does sound great. It sounds like nothing I've ever had, but it sounds good.
Yes. Definitely makes me want to cook, and I want to try it.
Yes, I want to see this Nancy Drew cooking show. I'll be the person that doesn't know anything. I'm already ready. Bad news, they're back to saying instead of
Correct.
Or at least Julie Ann is. Also, when you said Julie Ann and Nancy, I was like, oh, their ship name would be Julie Ancy, but they didn't. This is when they're doing their tourist time in St. Louis for, I think, just to kill time between the airplane ride to St. Louis, and then they're going to take a helicopter to the dig site, I think.
Correct.
So they just have some time to kill in St. Louis, and they go up in the arch, which is fun. They go to a paddle-boat museum. Anyway, she goes, it's delicious, and bites into a...
It's delicious.
Actually, and bites into a broiled, freshly caught fish topped with buttered almonds, which is another pairing I would never have thought to put together.
Yes. Another recipe that I would be interested in making. I don't know how you butter almonds, but I want them.
And why would you put them on a fish?
Yeah. I wouldn't pair almonds with fish, but I want to try it. Maybe I'm missing out.
Oh, yeah. They're on the boat with Captain Boge, and they have to pull over, and Nancy's like, anything we can do while we're in town and you're dealing with boat stuff? He goes, you can pick up several chocolate bars at the general store. The crew likes them. I'm glad he explained why to get chocolate bars. Thanks for explaining. Hey, this one weird trick crew members love. Chocolate. You've probably never heard of it. I don't know. It felt unnecessary as explanations go.
Yeah, they ate a lot of meals, and a lot of them weren't discussed in detail. That always is disappointing to me, but I think all of the other, descriptions of the beaten biscuits, the broiled freshly caught fish with buttered almonds, and Bess's ham patties and mac and cheese and banana ice cream with cherries and walnuts, like that more than makes up for it.
Oh, yes. This isn't a food, but at one point, Julie Ann at the dig site is trying to prepare luncheon and is struggling with an old-fashioned oil-burning stove because she's afraid to turn up the burners any higher because she doesn't want to blow up the whole house. That's her exact phrasing. But it's also not getting hot enough to, cook anything.
Amazing.
That stinks. It's not even a camp stove. It's just an old-fashioned stove. I'm like, oh, no.
Nancy's got it, though. Don't you worry.
She does. She does.
Fashion police.
Got a lot of pantsuits.
A lot of pantsuits. And actually,
a smart beige suit, which was really giving Hillary Clinton in my mind.
Yes. So that was right near the beginning when they were dropping Nancy off at the airport.
Well, you got to dress up at the airport, I've heard.
Of course. But Bess and George are, of course, wearing casual summer dresses. And then Nancy's like, and I'm in my smart beige suit. And they're like, ooh. Maybe we should have worn
very complimentary.
Yes, yes. And honestly, I would prefer to wear pants on an airplane. I think that's the right move. And
you're notoriously anti-pants for yourself.
I do
like
tend
to wear.
To be. I do. I love a dress. I love a skirt, but not on an airplane. I don't know. I'd rather be.
There's a lot of maneuvering.
Panted.
Panted?
Yes. I'd rather be panted on an airplane.
When we meet Teresa Bancroft, the leader of the dig, she is a tall, blonde, attractive woman who looked very trim in her pale blue dungarees.
Dungarees, yes.
And it gave me Ring of Keys, fun home moments of well, she has long hair, but actually, doesn't say. She has blonde hair. I just assumed. That's on me. Your short hair and your dungarees and your keys. It's just so cute. I know that there's other ways to wear dungarees.
That is the only way.
Or while eating Dunkaroos. I think that's fine, too.
Only 2 ways. 2 ways. Yeah, they had a lot of outfit changes. They were frequently, running through the woods. I think Nancy gets soaked at least twice.
Well, and then one of the times while she's still drying, she's like, actually, I'm going back in. And they're like, you're good. Okay.
Yeah, so thrice.
Yes.
You're just almost dry. And the going back in does nothing. Gives her no extra
not yield a
information.
single clue. And she's like, okay, well, anyway. Clem's hat gets lost in the river. It's so sad.
No.
Sailed on
I don't want
downstream,
anything bad to happen to Clem.
I know. He notices that while he's scratching his head in perplexity, he's like, well, where's my hat? It's so sad. Actual literal fashion police, the deputy of this very small town of 500 people. I think the sheriff's on vacation or something, so they have to talk to the deputy,
Correct.
This guy with the bag of donuts. He's eating an apple on his porch, and then they're like, oh my God, there's a kidnapped man in this house. And Deputy Wooster stood up. I better look into this, he said firmly. He reached into a trouser pocket, took out a badge, and pinned it to his blue shirt. I don't know. It was like a cartoon character, switching outfits.
Yes. Now I'm the police.
Exactly.
Sticker.
The mayor.
Put the sticker on.
Yes, now I put this little tiny sticker on. The mayor of Halloween Town in Nightmare Before Christmas turns his head around or whatever when he's got to be a certain way. That's what this seemed like. Well, I better put on my little pin, and now I can be a deputy and not just some guy eating an apple. We talked about the disguise.
Yes.
I do think that the limp
His
really
Count
did help
Olaf
because
style.
that was the thing most people named about him.
Was what? Sorry.
Having a limp. They're like, well, this guy doesn't have a limp and this guy does. They got to be two different people.
Until you start chasing him, and then the limp is gone.
Well, and that's why you got to do what I learned in the book, I'd Tell You I Love You, but then I have to kill you. And it's follow-up of that Gallagher Girls Academy. It's a great series about teen girl spies. It's amazing. And the covers are made out of ransom note letters. And to keep the limp up, you should put a small rock in your shoe so you don't forget.
Yes. We talked about that in one of my acting classes.
Good, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I had.
That's, rather light on the fashion police.
It's okay, though. I like that there was an actual police one.
Yes, I actually missed that, so that is amazing. Thank you
great.
So much for bringing that to my attention.
Oh, of course.
Picture perfect.
I've got a great one.
It also I think this might be one of my favorite ones
It's
so far.
Good.
I wonder if we chose the same one.
I hope so. Okay. So for all of my saying, I don't care for the way they're handling the dig, it's so charming that there is a skeleton walking toward Nancy in one of my pictures. because someone is stealing the bones.
That's literally just the line underneath it was a skeleton was walking towards her.
And then she goes, somebody's holding it. It's great. Someone's like breaking in all the time at night and stealing all the artifacts.
Just to be rude?
I think so. Because they're not stealing like the turquoise whatever. They're just taking the bones, which are valuable to the archaeology people, but I don't think to Kit Cadle and crew. So they're just walking out, and maybe it was to scare them, but I don't think they knew that Nancy or anybody would be around because they're walking out of the darkness with the skeleton in front of them because it's a human skeleton, so it's, about as tall as a human. And so coming out of the darkness, she's like, so a skeleton's walking toward me. And this probably would make Bess faint. But I'm fine because I now see that there is a person holding it. And then she goes, put that down, she ordered, reaching out to grab the bony figure, which I thought was the criminal. I now realize it is the skeleton. There was a startled grunt from behind the skeleton, and the next moment a man thrust it at her, brushed past, and ran fast toward the road. Bob! Bob! Nancy shouted, but got no reply. So this is like right after he's been kidnapped, because he was on watch. She doesn't pursue the fugitive because it's too dangerous, and also she had retrieved the valuable fossil and must hold on to it. And it's weird to call a human skeleton a fossil. Then she has to walk it back, and then it freaks out Julianne. She's like, oh my God, a skeleton's walking toward me. It just keeps going. It's a beautiful comedic moment.
I love it. My honorable mention is when they are on the barge having their dinner and a log crashes through the window and doesn't hit anybody, but does cut Bert. I was imagining when I was reading it, I was like, oh, it's like a log, like, I don't know, the size of like a piece of firewood. Maybe a little bit bigger. And then I turn the page and it's the illustration and the log is like the entire trunk of a mid-sized tree crashing through. And I was like, how did the bad guys make this happen? And the barge driver's like, yep, this happens sometimes. Yep. Welcome to being on a barge.
Sometimes, he explained, a floating log gets caught beneath the barge and is carried along underwater. When it breaks loose, the log is propelled upward with great force. It sometimes angles for the boat and crashes onto the deck. George said grimly, there is great force, all right. If that had hit, Dave finished her remark. Little old me, Emerson would have lost a great football player, and it certainly couldn't afford that. His facetiousness made everyone relax. I loved that moment from Dave, being like, listen, we're all pretty stressed here. I'm going to make a little joke about how valuable a football player I am. He also says, little old me. Lilole. Little old me.
So amazing.
Cute. Blast from the past.
We've already kind of dove into some of our blasts from the past. But to kind of go back, this elevator at Aunt Eloise's apartment.
Another reason that this meeting could have been a phone call, because then you wouldn't get stuck in the elevator.
Correct. Nancy is surprised to see it's an unmanned elevator. The book treats it like this is the first time she's encountered an unmanned elevator. But we have had this note before, and we have discussed in this podcast Nancy encountering an unmanned elevator and being surprised by it. And maybe it's because she's been to Aunt Eloise's before, and so she remembers it being manned, and so that's where the surprise is coming from, is more like, oh, this elevator now has also been replaced with an automatic elevator.
Mm-hmm. I think that must be it because, it's wild to have the same realization twice.
I have another one for when they are first in St. Louis. They get on a streetcar. Yeah. I looked it up because I was curious. I was like, oh, does St. Louis still have streetcars? No. And in 1972, when this book the revision was published, they also did not have streetcars. The last streetcar was retired in St. Louis in 1966. So this is inaccurate.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
But maybe that was the last time that person had been in St. Louis. They did have it. They're like, how much could it have changed?
A lot,
That's
actually.
So funny. I'm so glad you fact-checked that.
I know. I wasn't meaning to. I just kind of was like, I wonder if I went to St. Louis, could I ride on a streetcar like Nancy Drew? And I was like, no, and neither could she have.
She couldn't have. Yeah. Speaking of old-fashioned vehicles, this is Clem's car. Nancy and Julie Ann found it hard to keep from laughing aloud at the conveyance which was to take them on their detective trip. The car was a very old 4-passenger type with no top and had rather narrow wheels. Nancy thought this should be on exhibit in an antique car museum, and yet it does better than some of the other vehicles, so interesting. We've talked about Nancy's dad making the decisions of where she can and can't go. That's interesting, and he's the one that even facilitated the intro to this mystery.
And also, other times he just doesn't care. He rarely does care.
Also, she doesn't even need a male companion. She just needs a companion. So once she can meet up with Julie Ann, who we don't know from Eve, except that it's Ned's cousin, then it's fine. And it's like, aren't there going to be other people there once she gets there? I don't know. It was weird. It seemed like he didn't think that she would be allowed to stay at the dig, and maybe she shouldn't have. And so he didn't want her staying alone, which is fair.
Also, like, there were people immediately stalking her from when she left the first airport. Like,
correct.
She has been being followed, I think, for a long time because they found out about her because she went to New York to talk with the detectives. So, like, to be fair to Carson, he is right to be like, maybe you shouldn't go places by yourself, Nancy, because a man has been following her the whole time.
That's fair. When Nancy tries to call Ned, she has to go to a phone booth to call him, which we've seen before. And then she doesn't know where he's at. So she tries 3 different places where she thought Ned might be, and he's not at any of them. She's like, all right, well, guess I won't call him, I guess.
Guess I'm not talking to Ned today.
Yep. I just thought that was interesting. The captain, Nathaniel Hornbeck, has an unlisted number, and that seems like a new thing.
Yes.
Because Clem says he doesn't have a phone. He goes, Clem doesn't know. Someone's spying on them from a helicopter with binoculars. That's interesting. So she writes down the helicopter license plate. We have that?
I guess.
guess.
I've never seen a helicopter fly. Like, I've been paying close enough attention. When a helicopter is flying, I've never seen, like, a license plate.
It feels weird, right?
Yeah. How close was it to the ground, and how big are the numbers?
They're just spray painted on the side of it.
Maybe. I mean, sometimes, yeah. Maybe that's what she's looking at. She's like, it says 23. 23.
Like, I got to repeat it over and over in my mind so I'll remember.
Yes.
This long number.
One thing that inspired me to look something up on Wikipedia was when Clem is telling the archaeologist group about how, like, big the fish have used to be in the Ohio River, and they're talking about catfish. And one of the boys breaks into a song from the opera Porgy and Bess, and a song talking about Catfish Row. And so I was like, oh, what is this? So it is an opera, an English language opera by the American composer George Gershwin. And it premiered in 1935.
Wait, so it premiered the year that this book premiered? This was a very current reference at the time.
Well, and I'm assuming that this is a reference that was added in the 70s because, because it was also adapted into a film in 1959, so it would have been more well-known. Yeah, no, I expect that this is something from the revision. There is a song from it called Summertime that became very popular and was recorded a lot. But what is interesting about the music or the opera Porgy and Bess, it tells the story of Porgy, a disabled black street beggar living in the slums of Charleston. And he's trying to rescue Bess from the clutches of Crown, her violent and possessive lover, and Sportin' Life, her drug dealer. And this opera was an entirely, like, all-black cast in 1935. Now, you might say, whoa, how, like, and
I
did
say that. Why shouldn't I have said that?
As with many different things where you have a white man writing about a culture that is not their own, there are a lot of, according to African Americans, a lot of racial stereotypes and, things of that nature. And so at the time, I mean, could be seen as very progressive, but in following years, there were a lot of Black actors who refused to be in productions because of the portrayal of African Americans and things like that. But, you know, I would view that as fairly progressive at the time, but however, completely understanding the historical significance of an all-Black production, while also understanding and respecting that just because it's an all-Black cast does not mean it is progressive. Especially, and I think the people that we listen to are the people that it directly affects. And so, but it was really, really interesting to read about. And I guess it launched the opera careers of quite a lot of Black opera singers at the time.
That's awesome. Because I imagine it was hard to break into that field. I have just a couple of little phrases of just the guy at the beginning, Boise. Again, I don't think we should use that. He says, wait till I tell my friends a girl found the message in the hollow oak. Note, she has not yet. Second note, you asked her to, so why are you being so weird about it? the way this is just the most egregious way they talked about indigenous people. They were trying to tell the history of why Père Francois was leaving all these messages, but the way they say it is the powerful Iroquois swarmed down and nearly annihilated them. And they just use a lot of verbs that are associated with like a plague insect. They swarmed down. And this is the way that cultures, are easily made to seem less human, right? This is a caravan. This is a scary noun that we associate with an invasion, as opposed to here's a human being. Okay, there's more than one of them. I don't know. It was in the first couple chapters and I was like, uh-oh, this doesn't bode well. And it didn't. So,
It didn't.
Yeah.
No, there was a lot of discussions about the indigenous and Native Americans that just were, so old-fashioned. I don't know how, like, the way, even still, like, my Grammy talks about some things. I mean, she was born in the 40s, so...
And we've talked about this before, how we changed from Indian to Native American to indigenous, like even in our lifetime. And so I understand that the word Indian is what was used at the time.
Yes.
However, the rest of this is so much. There's just so much to get into. I'm going to put some resources in the show notes of this that are just better than, for example, me talking about this.
Correct. Yeah. Two white people lecturing about...
I'll put in some good resources of other people that...
Yes, but please check those
is a great
out.
author on this already.
They are going to be more articulate and...
Yes. Knowledgeable.
Their perspective matters more, I would argue.
Correct. Definitely correct.
I did want to talk about Hopewell.
Yes, please, because I almost did a deep dive into that, and then I ran out of time because I read this today.
And I didn't do a full deep dive because I had seen the word quite a lot, living here in the Midwest. And so...
And I've been to some earthworks.
And I have not.
Beautiful.
But I have seen the signs for them. And I've always been interested in going to Serpent's Mound. I love learning about cultures that I don't know a lot about. What's interesting, though, is like a lot of times that I have seen Hopewell mentioned, or even within this book, it is implying that they are an ancient indigenous people in this area, when that's not true at all. It is describing almost like a time period and an interconnected network of different groups living all the way from what is now Toronto all the way down to Florida. And so when you come across these, especially like the burial mounds, are a indicator of this time period and the culture that was prevalent at the time. And they're named after a white man whose property these were first not discovered on, because obviously these have been around. I mean,
the people that were there knew about it.
Yes, yes.
And this is the
descendants of these people, but I think the Hopewell, and so it's often called the Hopewell tradition, not the Hopewell people, not like the Hopewell culture, but the Hopewell tradition.
This is not a nation. This is not what we used to call a tribe. This is a lot of different groups of people working together toward one.
Connected by trade and having like similar cultural practices, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the same culture.
It's like if we call the Silk Road like one people.
Exactly, yeah. They were from 100 BCE to 500 CE, which is far...
Oh, sorry. Wow, what?
Yes. Far earlier than I expected.
I did not know the numbers.
Yes. And that's what something that was, really interesting to me. And especially since even Clem did not seem to be aware of this as well, because he was saying that, it's like a few hundred years ago. It's more than a few hundred. We're talking like over 1,000 years ago. And so hopefully maybe we can add some other links or resources that discuss more
about specifically the Hopewell.
Yes, about just different elements of their culture, because honestly I'm sure that could be an episode all on its own of the lifestyle and religious beliefs. And of course a lot of these things that we know about them are based on archaeology, because a lot of the subsequent cultures that might have been able to teach us about them were eliminated. Or destroyed, or scattered,
or
displaced.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So the archaeology is where we learn about and make assumptions about what type of people that they were.
Yes, indeed. Just very brief blast from the past. Hey, I'm so glad that we can't just like figure out what room someone's in at a hotel anymore and just call the front desk and be like, hey, connect me to Nancy Drew's room. I want to know where she is right now. That sucked.
Wound watch.
Did she get hurt?
No, she got hit by an object that was not heavy and did not injure her.
Good for her.
So that doesn't
Good
count.
for her.
Yep. Bert got
So-
cut. George was in danger, but that's it.
I was say, do you have our count?
I have our count, and I don't think we have anything.
I don't
She
think
didn't
it
get
has changed, but I would love
Yeah.
a good check-in.
Yeah, give me a second here. Our count, we got 6 knockouts and 4 kidnaps for our Nancy, and I love not adding to that. Good work.
Good
Did
job,
several
Nancy.
other people get kidnapped? Absolutely. That's not our business.
Don't need to worry about
I think
that.
this is, yeah. I don't think she got any wounds.
No.
Because I wrote down, like, on one of them, I wrote slapped, because that doesn't count as a tally, but that's something I wrote down. No wounds. Good job.
No wounds. Good job, Nancy. Crash course.
Crash course. Oh, my God. Well, hey, it's a good thing we put car and other, because she was in every single vehicle this book. I started writing them down, and I forgot to keep track of all of them.
Yeah, she was in a streetcar and a plane.
Helicopter.
She was in a helicopter.
Right?
Yep. She was on a barge.
Uh-huh.
She was on a motorcycle.
Yep.
She was in a very, very, very old car.
Correct.
And then a slightly less old, but still old car.
And some of these things multiple times, like there were multiple airplanes and multiple motorcycle trips. There was a
Yes.
lot going on vehicular-wise. Did we think that the turbulence where she's sprawling in the aisle is an issue, or no, because it gets recovered?
I think it's fine. No harm, no
I flagged it
foul,
just in
other than the
case.
getting her seatmate's hands all over everything in her purse.
Oh, my God. That wasn't even then.
Um,
That wasn't even because of the turbulence. That was just happening.
Oh, shoot. You're right.
That wasn't even, I don't know why we had that.
Yeah, it was just for excitement. But I would say I have 2 for Crash Course.
Mhm.
And both of them involve crashing a car.
Even though we had 50 billion vehicles.
Yep. So they drown Clem's car. And
They
I mean,
do.
it is
Poor Clem's car.
poor Clem's car. It can't even, it is dead for a little bit.
Oh,
It's fine in
wild.
the end.
In fact, at some point, it sputters after they recover it. It sputters and a stream of water shoots out of the exhaust. I don't know enough about cars to say that that's not how it works,
Yeah.
but it seemed like a cartoon car that had been given like mouth to mouth or something.
Yeah. But you know what? It's okay. It just dries out. It's fine.
I had one that was the Captain Boge's. Hold on. Is Boge the captain of the barge?
Yes, he is.
Oh my God. This is like how I feel about Aragon being 1 letter off from Dragon. It's like, wow, we didn't really reach hard for that one. We shifted 1 letter up. Captain Boge and his barge. There's a lot of engine trouble, so they're stuck in the town. Does that count or no? Does it delay them or is it fine? I can't remember.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think these are just regular vehicle issues. The other car one is Ned driving this one.
Yep.
Oh,
Is
Ned.
it his truck?
No, they borrowed it.
Is
They
it Clem's?
rented it. It's not Clem's. It's someone else's, I thought. Let me make sure.
If it's Clem, I'm going to be so mad. He has been nothing but perfect.
I mean, it wouldn't be his
Yes,
fault that
it's
Ned
Clem.
crashed another
It's Clem. It's Clem's freaking truck.
Ugh, why?
Why? He
What?
lost his truck and his old car and his hat and his biscuits with fish in him because everybody else ate him. Poor Clem. It starts raining and everything turns into mud.
Oh, yeah, and they
Crash into an
slide.
old train
Yes.
depot.
They crash into they crash into an old depot. The truck is fine. The depot's fine.
The depot
Everyone is fine.
apparently was a wreck to start with, quote unquote. So, but this says I don't think we did it any good. So that brings our total car issues over these 12 books up to 17.
Woo!
Just cars
that
that
was-
Nancy's in.
I was going to say, we were very forgiving of the other.
Yeah, we were like,
Vehicle
this doesn't count,
issues.
this doesn't count. And other vehicle issues, which is so far, I guess it's just boats, is 5. Oh my gosh. We needed this segment, but good Lord, everybody.
And maybe I want to move this from miscellaneous mysteries to Crash Course because it seems relevant, which
Yeah.
is Art, do not lend your vehicle
yeah,
to Ned and Nancy.
correct.
You don't know their history. This
The
is
history's not good.
dangerous.
Nope.
Do not.
Ned's
understand
fine.
he
Ned
was-
has saved Nancy's car from a fire.
This is the second time that Ned has crashed a truck
But
off
it's
of a
only been
road in the
2
rain.
books. Just don't let it happen in the rain. And also, he didn't lend him a truck. He lent him his motorcycle, so that's fine.
Okay. I just would, if I were Art and I
I would
knew
not be friends with
the
you then, if
history
you were
of
Art.
Nancy Drew in vehicles, I
Yeah.
would not be lending this to her.
Correct. And you would be right to not do so. Sick burn. Immediately, we've got Kit Cato's number because she calls him a snoopy old thing, which had the same cadence of silly old bear, but like meaner to me.
Love that.
She's already calling him the annoying passenger in just the narration, which is awesome. Like, she recognizes the voice of him, the annoying passenger. But when we start actually insulting each other, not just in the narration, not just in her head, is going to be Claire Warwick. No one likes her. Nancy finds something because she's like, how can I help? And then Teresa's like, dig, with a smile, and like tells her how, but I just think that's funny. I'm like, yeah, that's what we're doing. That would be the
all
help.
you gotta do.
That's all I gotta do. And gleefully, Nancy cried out, I found something. And Julianne's like, oh my gosh, do you think it's a finger bone? And Claire goes, that's obviously a metatarsal bone, not a phalange. Not a what? Asked Nancy. Phalange. That's what we scientists call toe or finger bones, Claire replied loftily. But this is neither one. It's part of the skeleton of the forefoot. Wait a minute, said Teresa. Let's see that. This is a segment of an infant's finger. Better check your anatomy book again, Claire. Two boys with whom Claire was not popular burst into laughter. Better watch out, Claire, said Bill Munson, whose name I forgot to add to my list. First thing you know, you'll be connecting the ankle bones to the neck bones. There's like a page long of like, me, sniping at each other.
Everyone just trying to
you don't know what phalanges are, idiot.
You wouldn't know a phalange if it bit you in the nose.
And it shouldn't, because it's not a tooth. George almost drowns, and the narration, which we think is kind of Nancy's thoughts mostly, describes George. Her hair was as flat and shiny as a sleek cat, which doesn't feel like a compliment. I guess there's nothing in it that's bad if you like cats, but it doesn't feel like a good thing. Another one from Claire and Teresa. Julianne has found a part of a painted skull. Teresa says, this is a good find. It still bears traces of the red clay with which the Hopewell Indians painted the skulls of their dead. It could just as easily be an Algonquin skull, Claire said authoritatively. I've heard they had some strange customs. Sometimes they mixed their bones in the burials of earlier people. Teresa looked at the girl sharply. That story is absolutely untrue. Where did you hear it? Cornered, Claire admitted that she had forgotten. Then you should know better than to repeat such a story, said Teresa. Claire turned on her heel and walked away. Julianne winked at Nancy, as if to say, little Miss Know-It-All didn't get away with it this time, which is a lot to put in a wink, but I agree.
I actually thought that she winked and said that. I was like, wow, rude. I had to reread it twice. I was like, oh, she didn't actually say it. Her wink said that. Got it.
Her wink said this long, long sentence with a hyphenated name. I have two more. They're looking for the police because they're supposed to be helping at the end as they're finally tracking down Bob Snell. Ned goes, okay, you'll be safe enough because the police are supposed to be hiding around here. He frowned. They're doing a good job if they are. There's not a sign of them. Which, it's like, I don't know. That with the bag o' donuts was like, we're not coming up on the side of pro-police here. Are we going to get banned like some other books I know? And then here's a kind of a cute self-deprecating one from Ned. This is him letting Nancy know that the boys and George and Bess are going to join. But what he says is, Nancy, how would you like 3 hearty young men and 2 smart girls to join you? Like, I don't know. It's complimenting the girls, and he's like, and we're also here. We've got a good heart.
We're here.
Yeah, we'll join. We're not smart like the girls, but like, do you want us to hang out? We're good at selling insurance if you want.
We don't.
I missed that was his job.
We don't need to. I don't need to actually work. I can just come hang out with you. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. I've never needed to work. It's all been just for fun for me.
Drew's clues.
She goes to church again.
Yep, she does.
And she has regular church, and they do like a mini church at the dig.
But I did want to bring back attention to sometimes Nancy just doesn't know things. She had to be told what a phalange is. I was very proud that I knew what a phalange was, and Nancy did not. Yeah. But I do like...
We win.
Yeah, that sometimes Nancy does not know everything. And I think that's good for her sometimes.
Yeah. I like that she is certain that she would not fall for a scam or sign up for a phony investment. She goes, no chance of that, when she hears that Kit Cato might do that.
Good for her.
Not it.
We've seen before, but Nancy is very in touch with the vibes. She's like, someone's watching me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's Kit Cato.
I know the first and last name of the person watching me.
Yes. But even like when it's, this is this old limping man Tom. She's like, no, that's Kit Cato. We barely talked about the actual mystery.
Yeah,
because it was barely important to the actual story.
Hey, there's treasure.
There is treasure. You have to follow a hollow oak that has the iron plate on it that has his initials and then another arrow pointing.
But then there's multiple. What was going on with that? When would they
so
put
then you
in?
had to go find another hollow oak with another iron plate, but the iron plate is so old it's been grown over on the hollow oak, which if it was hollow, doesn't that mean that it's kind of dead? And
So
if
it
it's
shouldn't
dead,
be
why is more bark growing over it? I was confused. But they follow, I think, 4
Also, I thought
total hollow
he
oaks.
buried this in a rush, so how does he have time to put a billion lead plates into everywhere?
Well, he was doing this over the course of months as he was going
that
on
wasn't
his
in a rush.
travels. Yeah, those parts weren't. He was just being like, and then I went over here, and then I went over here, and then I went over here. And he's like, oh, shoot, I'm dying. He's like, well, this is going to be the last one. And I'm going to put this important message and some treasures in this one. And so Nancy reads the message and is able to translate it for everyone.
Because of how much French she knows.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm surprised.
If only that Swedish diary from a while back was in French.
Exactly.
If only Swedish was a romance language. They carve into a lot of trees. They just hack them up. And yes, I guess they're dead, but then they also were growing over stuff, so I don't know. And then at one point, someone's hacking into a tree that's not part of the mystery, and they're like, oh my God, how could you? And it's like, you have been digging up people's graves and hacking into trees this whole time. But this tree is not part of it. So now it's a problem. I don't know. It came off real weird. She has a lot of good instinct. She has a nightmare. She wakes up. She doesn't see Bob Snow, who's supposed to be on watch because he's been kidnapped. And she's about to see Skeleton Man walking toward her. And in between that, she's like, I should turn on my flashlight as I'm wandering around loose. And she's like, I shouldn't. And then she goes, what's the matter with you? To herself. You're actually nervous. And then it's because there's a reason to be nervous. I don't know. I think she didn't even believe herself yet. Yeah.
The last Drew's Clues I have was at the end, she gets recognized as like an honorary member of the New York Detectives Club. She is really honored to be recognized by this group to the point it almost brings her to tears. And I think people who are quote unquote actual detectives honoring her and recognizing her for her work, because she gets a lot of recognition. But she's not usually touched like this. And so I think, having also a group of men who are experts in their field being like, you're an honorary member now, is a pretty big deal to her.
It is. Right before that, Boise's like, to tell the truth, I'm very much embarrassed that my friends and I weren't able to solve this mystery. And Nancy's is, all you needed was more time. Like, you could have done it. It wasn't just because I'm special, basically. But I don't know. I just thought that was really generous and kind, even though she's obviously better than them, and we know that.
Yes, we all know she knows, but she's still polite about it.
Exactly.
Sleuthing skills.
I think your number one sleuthing skill, and we haven't really seen this modeled by Nancy, is to always have a flashlight with you and always have a magnifying glass. And this felt like classic detective. So I'm really glad that Nancy brought our attention to this, because that's the basics. You need these to be your own girl detective.
Another sleuthing skill you need is be able to solve really easy codes. And by that, I mean just a note that's been worn away that's missing like 4 letters and figure out what it means when no one else can figure it out. I think
what
that's
is this
nice.
gibberish?
Yeah, I'm going to take a picture of it and put it with the other pictures because it's, I swear, missing hardly anything. The hardest part would be find the town name, but that does feel like a thing you could figure out if you had a map.
My last sleuthing skill is you have to be so charming that people don't want you to leave, even though your presence is causing so many issues.
That's true.
You are not experienced or trained in archaeology. Just be so pleasant to be around that everyone wants you to be there anyway, so that you can solve your mystery.
Yeah.
Do these things and you too will be a girl detective.
Correct. Accidentally gay. Okay, I've got 2 quick things for accidentally gay. It's slim pickings here.
Yes, it's been sad. I feel like we started the series on such a strong accidentally gay note. And
they are busy grave digging. They don't have time to be gay.
Correct.
But Nancy does kiss Bess, George, and Teresa. Yep.
Yes.
Does not say kiss them on the cheek, so I am assuming this is a full mouth kiss.
Correct.
It seems fine and normal. They move on with their lives. It's just as wild.
This is normal. Feel like, we all expect this.
Yeah. When I say goodbye to any friend, that is obviously normal. And then I love that the first words we hear from Julie Ann are, I think it's wonderful about your coming out to the dig. ...
To the dig.
To the dig, yes. There's plenty of room in the farmhouse. This is when we're meeting Teresa. We call her Teresa. She wears dungarees. You'll really like her. I don't know. The rest of that was not an actual quote, but just, I loved it.
Well,
That's all.
we know what the association with dungarees is as well.
Exactly.
As evidenced by Fun Home.
Exactly.
Miscellaneous mysteries.
I have 2 miscellaneous mysteries. My first is when Nancy meets Boise, she's like, he looked different from comic strip detectives.
Yes!
Why is she making assumptions about what detectives look like when she herself is a detective?
Yes, and also, why is that the only detective image you know? You have a mirror.
And my second miscellaneous mystery is when we're approaching the climax, people are splitting up. Bert and George are staying behind to try and meet with the police, and everyone else is like moving forward to go find the last hollow oak. George and Bert volunteered to keep watch. I'll bark like a dog, said Bert, if the kidnappers show up. Why? Why? Does he have a really convincing dog bark? Like, possibly.
That's hilarious. He's like, any opportunity. Is Bert the one that does theater also? Or is that Dave? I hope he was just looking for a chance to show up. Because at some point in the last book, the girls do like, oh yeah, here's the bird call we practice. And we didn't see that, but sure.
At least the bird call makes sense to be in the woods.
Yeah, this is wild.
A little less obtrusive. Woo, 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 woo. Oh my God. Intruder alert.
Yeah, this is a problem, even if it's a real dog. What's happening here? Oh my gosh. I have a few. What is a two-handed thank you gesture? George makes one. What is that?
Oh.
I don't know what that is. But she just almost drowned, and she almost got squished between 2 boats. Ned and Dave grab a boat hook and like hold the 2 barges apart, and it was hard work and they strained every muscle. And then somebody else radios the boat, says like, stop, stop, stop. And then George is strong enough to swim herself to safety, but like she almost got squished. And she's a strong swimmer. There's a giant current.
And she's really smart because she dives right underneath the barge and swims out the other side.
Yes, so smart. And so she's all good. And I mean, she fell in. She's like, wasn't that stupid of me? And everyone makes no comment, which I think they should be like, it was not stupid to fall in, and you were really smart to get out of this, but whatever. And then she, is kind of too exhausted or to like yell to the boat, but they're like, you're some swimmer, young lady. And she holds up her 2 hands in a thank you gesture, and I don't know what that is, but
yeah,
I'm glad she is polite.
I'm not sure what that would be. I'm making all sorts of different gestures.
Why do we describe the men this way? She called to 6-foot Ned to pull it out. Okay. Feels like we just kind of shoehorned that in there. He's 6 foot. That's not part of the story, but it is relevant and you should know it. Did you notice how sensitive Captain Boge is? I love him. He is an empathetic man. He picks up on the drama betwixt the youths. And he goes, I want an honest answer to a question. Have you young folks been bored with this trip? She goes, oh no, Nancy replied. It's been full of excitement. How could we possibly be bored? The captain looked down at the table pensively. You have all become so quiet. I thought maybe something was wrong. Like, he thinks that it's his fault. Not even the log through the window. He's like, oh, surely I messed something up because you guys are so quiet. They're like, no, it's not you. And so he tells them a ghost story, which cheers them up for some reason.
Know your audience.
I guess. What's Operation Survival? I Googled it. It's a Hardy Boys book from 2005, so that can't be what Dave is referencing. It would be hilarious if it was. They're rationing their lunch because the children stole their lunch and they need watercress and whatever. And Dave is like, I feel like I'm on Operation Survival, and I can't find anything that would make sense for him to be referencing. It sounds like a Survivor-type TV show, which they certainly did not have yet, despite it being the 50th season. One of the greatest tricks that the bad guys pull is being like, hey, we're actually guards from the museum. Quote, we've come for all the artifacts and bones, unquote.
We need the museum stuff.
Yeah, all the dig things. The ground things?
Yeah.
The treasure. Anyway, Bess threatens them with George. Bess goes in a loud, clear voice, if you dare try anything funny, George will use some judo on you. And that works. And it's so funny.
Yep.
They wanted no part of a judo encounter.
Nope. Not with someone named George. That
could be a man.
Dangerous.
And also, judo encounter is a great band name. My final question is, why is the title singular? There were many messages and many hollow oaks.
Agreed. There were multiple hollow oaks. There was at least 4.
At least 4. Gumshoe Game Show. Okay, this is based on the bazillion phrases that don't make any sense that I marked and did not say earlier.
What do I win?
Oh, shoot, you're so right. There's a lot of treasure. Do you want me to read off the list of treasures, or do you have it?
I have one that I am interested in. I want Clem's gold coin
Yes, absolutely. Because there's a bunch of treasure at the end. There's a lot.
There were so
There's
many.
horn.
And honestly, I loved Clem. I want the coin.
His stuff is worth more. And he bought it from someone and gives it to her for free.
And I was going to say, I think that's what Nancy gets to keep. Everything else has to go to the museum. Nancy gets to keep the gold coin. And so I want it too.
Did you notice there's another freaking signet ring? We're lousy with signet rings. My other thing I was going to offer you, besides all the treasure that goes to the museum, is when Teresa goes at the end, Nancy, I want you to have the honor of digging the first shovelful of dirt. And I wanted to know if you wanted a shovelful of dirt.
That is a great secondary prize, but no.
Yes, but Clem's thing is really good.
Clem's coin.
Okay. The Clem coin. It's better than cryptocurrency. It's cryptic currency. Ooh.
Clem coin.
CC. All right. So when Nancy Drew's in the elevator, they say, "You poor thing, keep your chin up. I think this is terrible." The first known printed use of the phrase "keep your chin up" is in the October 1900 issue of the Evening Democrat, a Pennsylvania newspaper. Which of these phrases is not part of that same article?
Boy.
A, don't take your troubles to bed with ya. B, buck up, keep your shoulders to the metal. C, hang your troubles on a chair with your trousers. Or D, drop them in a glass of water with your teeth. Only one of those is not part of it.
Oh, my.
That was what I texted you the other day when I had read exactly 4 pages of this book.
Yes.
And then this game show was locked in from the moment they said, keep your chin up. And I found this out.
Wow. Going between C and D as not being real. And I think I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with C.
So sorry.
Oh, no. Was it D?
Oh,
it was my
B.
Goodness.
Buck up, keep your shoulders to the metal. As I was like, oh God, I got to think of one that sort of fits. So I'm glad it worked.
It did.
No, it was like, keep your chin up. Don't take your troubles to bed with you. Hang them in a chair with your trousers. Drop them in a glass of water with your teeth. Like, what's happening here?
Wow.
I like the idea of like, when you're trying to sleep, slough off the stress of the day, but it's weird when the teeth are involved. I've always said this.
I agree.
Number 2, one of the treasures they find is a plumb bob. PLUMB space BOB. Yes. Carefully, Nancy removed an egg-shaped piece of metal with a rotted fragment of string attached to it. Mm-hmm. That's a plumb bob, said Ned. It hangs on the end of a line to find the center of gravity. And apparently it's still like a useful tool in construction, I guess.
Yes.
Cool. In the game The Sims, the diamond over their head is called a plumb bob. That's how I knew that phrase. It changes color from bright green to red to indicate a Sim's needs and mood. What does a blue plumb bob indicate? A, the Sim is depressed. B, the Sim belongs to another player. C, the Sim is ready to woohoo. Or D, the Sim has died.
And I've played The Sims so much, but it's been so many years.
I have not, so if I'm wrong, I will look it up and fix it.
I don't remember seeing it blue often. So is it that it belongs to another player?
It is. Yes,
okay,
yes,
I was going to say, because I never have played with other people, and I'm like, I don't remember seeing it ever be blue.
What? Yeah, I did not either. I've played it a little bit, but it was always a solo game for no internet. All right, they mentioned ham radio, and Bob builds one from scratch, which is cool. Why is it called ham radio? Is it A, the 3 last names of 3 gentlemen from the Harvard Radio Club? That'd be Albert Hyman, Bob Alma, and Poogie Murray.
Okay.
I will say every man in this is a real man. It's just may or may not be the right choice. I need you to know that Poogie Murray is someone's name.
Okay.
B, it's short for amateur, stemming from vaudeville, like hamming it up, or ham-fisted, which is clumsy. Is it C, ham stands for the last names of 3 radio pioneers, Heinrich Hertz, Edwin Armstrong, and Guglielmo Marconi?
Okay.
Or D, named after the Hammerland product line of radios?
Oh my goodness, these are so hard. My test-taking strategies make me feel like A and C are similar enough that one of them is probably correct. And so I am going to go with A.
Half credit. Everything except for B, the correct answer, is said to be the reason for it. The actual reason is amateur. It's amateur radio.
Oh.
Ham radio. It's not a professional broadcaster. And also professional landline telegraphers would call them ham-fisted because they thought they had poor Morse code skills. And in fact, as I was looking this up, I did a medium dive on this, and I will send you some stuff that I thought was funny. They called them hams. I think they use this in the book too. The noun was hams as ham radio operators. And this was described in this history I was looking up as a slur, which feels like a strong descriptor of calling someone a ham for a hobby. So you have 1.5.
So I've got 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah, you're doing great. Number 4. At one point, the deputy is talking to Nancy. Now there you may have a squirrel in the tree, he says. And I looked that up, and that is not a phrase.
Oh.
It's simply not. I was looking up the origin, and everyone's like, that's crazy. No one would ever say that. So instead, I have a different rodent phrase for you. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. What were rats initially said to be fleeing or quitting rather than a sinking ship? It evolved into that phrase. In 1600, was it A, the body, B, the hive, C, the ocean, or D, the house?
I want to go with A.
Unfortunately, it was first the house.
Darn.
Don't suffer yourselves to be buffeted from post to pillar by pinning your faith upon such that propose no more than to find a way out for themselves, like rats that quit the house before it falls. This is, of course, a dialogue between two members of the New and Old East India Company, 1600. Then later, it's rats leave the body, like when they find the house rotten and ready to fall. I'm adding a lot of because there's a lot of extra letters in this one.
I figured there were. There's more,
yes.
Moving towards Middle English.
Yes. And then it just kind of goes, I'm going to send you these later as well, because it just kind of has a cool evolution from house to sinking ship, which are just two different things. And they call a certain vehicle a whirlybird. Do you remember what this was? It's one of her many vehicles that she's on. This is not the actual question.
That sounds like a helicopter.
It was. Which of these is not another name for a helicopter? A, a chopper, B, an autogyro, C, an egg beater, or D, a rotorcraft?
I'm going to say C.
They are all correct ones, so you get it right no matter what.
Yes.
You get 2.5.
2.5 out of...
What did you say? Which one have you heard of?
Oh, I heard of A, B, and D.
I've never heard egg beater in my whole life. I mean,
nor have I.
The kitchen
but
one.
It does look it.
I guess you're right, yeah. And autogyro, technically, helicopter heads, don't at me. It's actually a single-person helicopter-ish vehicle is the exact quote, but
helicopter-ish.
Helicopter-ish vehicle. What's the ruling on 2.5? Do we each get half the coin? I think you get the coin. I think we round up.
Yeah. We share custody of the coin.
There you go. I like it. Very good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me and You and Nancy Drew and learning about grave robbing with us.
This podcast is lovingly dedicated to the memory of my wonderful mother, Shar, the woman who got me hooked on sassy female detective stories. I also want to thank my brother Ben, also known as Digital Women, for creating most of our sound and music cues for this podcast. Thanks, Ben.
You can check out our website, meandyouandnancydrew.com, for show transcripts, our episode calendar if you'd like to read along with us, and links to our Patreon, where we will post any images that we describe during the podcast, as well as any other additional links. Those will be visible to anyone without a paywall, but if you'd like to become a patron, we have some very fun perks, including outtakes and discussions that got cut for time, stickers, cross-stitch patterns to create your own Drewseum at home, and more.
Thank you, Megan, for editing this podcast and creating additional sound cues.
Thank you, Colleen, for also editing the podcast, for transcribing the episodes, and for designing our website and Patreon perks.
Thank you to our partners for the support, love, and microphones.
Thank you to libraries everywhere for giving access to Nancy Drew books and the Gallagher Girls series, and media of all kinds to people everywhere for free.
And finally, thank you, of course, to the one and only Carolyn Keene for independently writing 620 Nancy Drew novels from 1930 to present day. Join us next episode for our discussion of Book 13, The Mystery of the Ivory Charm.
And don't forget the moral of this episode.
You had a narrow squeak.